You know, the world we live in, it feels so solid, right? Permanent, like it's always been this way. But what if it isn't? What if it's all just a very fragile, very recent, 200-year-old experiment? To really understand the world we've built, we have to look at an island that acts like an incredible mirror to our modern lives, Tasmania.
Okay, so first we've got to get our heads around this one key idea, a phase shift. This is not just about a new gadget or a cool app. A phase shift is an invention so profound it completely rewires our reality. It makes the world before it happened almost impossible for us to imagine. Think about it. Once electricity lit up our cities, the deep, total darkness that our ancestors lived in for 200,000 years, we can't even really comprehend that anymore. That's a phase shift. And that brings us to the big question we're tackling here. The reality that feels so normal to you and me, it's actually built on a whole series of these massive phase shifts. But what happens when we start to peel them away? What are we really standing on? Well, the truth is, our entire modern world depends on this surprisingly fragile stack of technologies. And here's the kicker. Almost every single layer of that stack is less than 200 years old. So let's do a little thought experiment. Let's try to reverse engineer reality.
Okay, let's go on a trip back in time, unwinding the tech that defines our lives layer by layer. We start with today, with generative AI totally changing our relationship with information. Before that, in 2007, the smartphone basically became an extension of our brain. Before that, GPS went public in 2000 and completely rewrote how we move through the world. And all of that rests on the transistor, which rests on electricity, which rests on developments like the very first photograph in 1826 that taught us how to freeze time itself.
So let's start peeling. First up, take away the smartphone. Poof, it's gone. What comes rushing back? The real possibility of being bored, of being truly alone with nothing but your own thoughts. They call the smartphone our external brain that killed boredom. And without it, our actual brain has to start doing the heavy lifting again, remembering things, not just remembering where to Google them.
All right, next layer. Let's get rid of GPS. And suddenly, something amazing happens. You can actually get lost again. That little blue dot is gone. And in its place, this ancient, deeply human skill has to wake up, wayfinding. That skill uses a part of your brain, the hippocampus, that's literally been shrinking in the GPS age because we've stopped using it.
Now for the big one. Take away electricity. And just like that, the night comes back. I mean, the real night. Absolute, profound, maybe even a little scary. By lighting up the dark, we broke a 200,000-year-old relationship with the natural rhythms of our planet. We basically doubled our waking hours, but we also got a divorce from the cosmos.
Okay, so here we are, we've peeled everything back, and we've landed in the year 1826. We are now officially in a world before our tech stack. But it's not just the gadgets that are gone. Time itself. Time works completely differently here.
There's this amazing line that says, in 1826, humans were temporal slaves. The sun commanded when you worked. Your entire life was run by daylight. If you lived in London during the winter, that meant 16 hours of darkness, of forced inactivity. But in the summer, you were working a 15-hour day. The sun wasn't just a clock, it was a dictator.
And this is where it gets really, really weird. An hour wasn't a fixed thing. It wasn't 60 minutes. People just took the daylight they had and divided it into 12 parts. So a summer hour might actually be 75 of our minutes long. And a winter hour, maybe only 45 minutes. Time was elastic. It literally stretched and shrank with the seasons. It breathed.
So, we did it. We've stripped away the last 200 years of our reality. But you know what? This isn't the beginning of the human story. Not even close. This is just the very, very end of our particular experiment. To understand what came before all of this, we have to look at a blueprint for humanity that is vastly older and, frankly, way more resilient.
And that brings us to the Palawa people of Tasmania, or Lutruwita. They are, in a very real sense, the control group for our entire modern world. Their society gives us a 65,000-year-long case study in how to live sustainably on this planet.
65,000 years? Just let that number sink in for a second. We're talking about a continuous cultural history that makes the entire timeline of ancient Egypt look like it happened last Tuesday. This isn't just history. This is deep time.
And what makes their story totally unique in all of human history is this. About 12,000 years ago, the sea levels rose and the land bridge connecting them to Australia flooded. For the next 500 generations, the Palawa people developed in complete, total isolation. They were a world unto themselves, untouched by the agricultural or industrial revolutions that changed everything else.
And please, don't make the mistake of thinking this was some primitive society. Not a chance. This was a culture built on incredibly sophisticated knowledge. We have evidence from 41,600 years ago that they were using what's called fire stick farming, using controlled burns to manage the whole ecosystem. It was a technology of software, of knowledge, not hardware.
You see, their whole definition of progress was just different. These were the people who survived the last ice age as the most southerly humans on the entire planet. They thrived, working only about 20 hours a week to get everything they needed. Adulthood wasn't about turning 18, it was about being ready, being competent. And maybe the most incredible fact of all, the archaeology shows 40,000 straight years of them harvesting from the land without ever once depleting their resources.
So what we're left with are these two competing blueprints for human survival. On one hand, you have our modern world, which is built on external technologies of control. And on the other, the Pulawe world, built on internal, knowledge-based resilience.
I mean, just look at the trade-offs we've made, side by side. We swapped that breathing time that was tied to the sun for the rigid, linear time of a machine. We outsourced our own knowledge to a prosthetic brain, our phone, instead of carrying it inside us. Our survival now hangs on this delicate tech stack, while theirs depended on their deep knowledge of the world around them. It's a massive shift from internal resilience to external control.
The moment these two timelines finally collided in Tasmania, well, it tells us so much about the path we've chosen. It really forces us to look at the true price of what we like to call progress.
This one quote just says it all, doesn't it? We own the world, but the Palawa belong to it. That's the core difference right there. It's the difference between domination and symbiosis. We gain this incredible power to control our environment, but in doing so, we made ourselves completely dependent on the fragile systems we built to do it.
In the end, there's no question that our 200-year experiment has given us some unbelievable power and convenience. But that 65,000-year blueprint from the Palawawe serves as this powerful reminder of what we might have lost, a deep connection to the natural world, a kind of resilience that's built in, not bolted on, a way of living in the world rather than just on top of it. And it leaves us with one last really important question to ask ourselves.